last week, which was a big game in college football, UC and Notre Dame. Remember, if you all recall from last week, you have our guy Andre Edwards on here, who's all things Cincinnati sports. He mentioned what he felt UC had to do to get to at least get some love for the playoff committee, college football playoff committee, because no one from the group of five had finished higher than 8th. I looked it up. No one finished higher than 8th. And this, 5-6 year history, maybe 7, of the college football playoff. So we laid it out last week, right? UC had to do the damn thing at Notre Dame, right? And then have chaos around them to help bolster their case.
Yes.
Well, believe it or not, both happened. Both things happened. You had chaos. Mm-hmm. Oregon losing to Stanford.
Stanford, yeah.
I mean, and then you had like you had, of course, Iowa won their game. Penn State won their game. They play this weekend. Mm-hmm. That's gonna be fucking huge, right?
Yes.
And then you had UCLA losing. Yeah, they got spanked actually. And you had Arkansas and Ole Miss getting the humbling. Remind themselves that they're not Georgia and Alabama respective. They get that little reminder. Great, good teams, good stories, but they're not on that level just yet.
They're not on that level yet.
Okay.
No.
Florida lost, and somehow, some way, they were still ranked. I don't know why they're still ranked. They lost 2 games. Go figure that. But I say all that to say this. With Penn State and Iowa facing each other, with Ohio State not being the best team, in my opinion, in the Big Ten right now, I mean, you got Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State in the same division.
Yeah.
They all have to play each other. So no one's it's going to be highly unlikely that anyone comes out of there unscathed.
Yeah.
With at least one loss. And Ohio State, with that loss of Oregon, is not looking
good. So they already have that one loss, yeah.
Because Oregon took on the chin against Stanford, so that's not looking good. And so, Iowa, if they get past Penn State, who's going to challenge them in the West Division? I thought it would be Wisconsin, but Wisconsin ain't looking all that good. And the Northwestern, what the hell happened to Northwestern?
Yeah, right.
And so Nebraska, they still wish they're in the Big 12. But anyway, so it's going to be, what's going to come down to is this. Probably 2 SEC teams, if Alabama and Georgia keep winning until they meet each other in the conference final. Maybe if Iowa wins out, or whichever comes out of the Big Ten as a one-loss team. So that 4th spot going to come down to, we know the ACC is out at this point, unless more chaos happens. So it's going to look like it's either an ACC team, a Pac-12 team, or UC if they keep winning out, or maybe the Big 12. But still, the Big 12 is like right now. And if the college football playoff, they do it every year. They take who you beat. So guess who has the best win so far? Cincinnati does.
It will be Cincinnati, yes.
They have right now, they have the best win of the season. And they're still coasting. So anyway, man, I say this. Is there a way, let me ask you, is there a way, say like if they stay as they are right now, if things can't progress as they are right now, from this point, if Cincinnati wins the table and everything else takes place, could the college football playoff really count Cincinnati out if things progress the way they're progressing right now?
Yes, they could. And let me give you an example how, right?
Okay.
I mean, we already know who the usual suspects are in this situation, right? So say Alabama and Georgia do go undefeated and they make it to the SEC championship game. And that game is close. That's a way to somehow keep both SEC teams in the top 4.
Yeah.
Then
that's going to happen regardless. I think that's going to happen. I think that's definitely going to happen.
Exactly, right? So you have that situation. And then we have that looming monster that's currently ranked number 7. That's Ohio State. And I bring them up because, okay, what if Iowa beats Penn State and that game is close?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
And then Ohio State then runs the table.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do that, of course, they end up having to face Penn State in 2 weeks.
Right.
Then after that, they got Michigan State. If they can play well,
Mm-hmm.
continue to play well, you know, they'll be high, they'll be top 10 potentially.
Right.
Well, whoever wins that, no, because that'll be the last week of the season. So yeah, so they'll play against Michigan, who will probably be top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan State, I'm sorry.
Michigan looks good.
And then the following week, Michigan, who
Right.
will probably be top 10. So if they're capable of beating, well, I'll go ahead and be nice and say 3 top 15 programs,
Mm-hmm.
especially if one of those is top 5, and then they go and beat Iowa. If Iowa wins, but it's a close game, do I be conspiracy brother now and say 2 SEC and 2 Big Ten teams in the playoffs?
Slugging it out, yeah. 2 most powerful conferences.
Is that unbelievable? No. It will be a way, of course, to keep Cincinnati out, even though they play wonderfully right now, right? But at that point, you're now talking about an Ohio team and leading up between now and the end of the season that will probably have played and beaten 4 top 15 programs.
Yeah.
And they would be a conference champ.
Right.
That would give the committee an excuse to place them into the playoffs. But and again, if Iowa also wins out and that
they
Big
might
Ten
do that. They
game,
very well,
which is very possible, right?
Yeah.
If they win out and that's a close loss to Ohio State, that's probably exactly how this thing plays out.
Yeah.
As much as I would hate to see it, but would love to see it at the same time, because you know me, I love chaos and I love conspiracies. That would be the way that could happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what was working against UC, because again, they got the great win at Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame was all said and done, is going to finish the top 15 team in the college football playoff poll. The Big Ten is so fucking good this year.
Yeah.
So fucking good. And so is SEC. So yeah, I can see it. Unfortunately, it would be fucked up. But
it would be, right?
But I can see it. Now, because again, I'm not mad at Alabama and Georgia. Mm-hmm. They're both great. I mean, I know Clemson sucks, but but Georgia did play. It wasn't a true road game, but it was a Charlotte. Mm-hmm. It was practically a Clemson home game, and they beat Clemson, who at the time was the top 14.
Yeah.
They just violated Arkansas. God damn. And they only did it with a guy who completed, a young man who's a backup quarterback who completed 72 yards. Because most of the scores came off of the running game and defense.
Yeah.
Turnovers. So that's what they bludgeoned by having to throw about having making the use of the forward pass. And they beat Alabama 37-0. That's just crazy. But and Alabama, I don't see anybody beat Alabama anyway. That's just me. So again, that's why I'm not mad at those two. The Big Ten, I think the Big Ten gets someone in regardless. Mm-hmm. I think they're that powerful this year. They're a damn good league. It's just a matter of how many. So that's really the only thing that could upset the apple cart, because I don't see anybody from the Big 12 challenging. I don't see anybody from the Pac-12 challenging, especially after Oregon lost. Of course, the ACC is like, who gives a shit now? So, I mean, if Wake Forest is your bell cow, and I grew up only 10 miles from Wake Forest, right?
Yeah.
So if Wake Forest is your bell cow at number 8, I think they're ranked 18th now. If they're your bell cow, it's a wrap. it's a wrap. So no disrespect to Wake Forest. I think they're well coached. I think they're pretty good. I don't think they're elite.
No,
they hadn't played in the elite schedule.
They haven't played in the elite schedule either. Yeah.
So I mean, it is what it is. So which goes back to NC State. If NC State, if we didn't shit the bed against Mississippi State, which I don't think is not really that good, we'd be sitting prettier than we are right now. We're at 23 now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still mad about that. But anyway, the point is that I think UC still has a shot, right? They still have a shot. Again, went out.
Yeah.
You have no excuse now. You beat Notre Dame, you beat Indiana the week before that, both on the road. 2 Power Fives in the road. You got that on your belt. Now, you got Temple at home tomorrow night. Temple's not great, but they're not bad either.
No.
So you got to show up against them. So I got that schedule up somewhere. I'm going to pull it up right quick. So they got UCF. So you got Temple, UCF the next 2 weeks at home.
Mm-hmm.
UCF, they're 2-2, but they're doing competitive. They're coached by Gus Malzahn now, formerly of Auburn. So I think they had a big injury at quarterback though, but still the point is they got the competitive pedigree, which is why they, along with UC and Houston, are on the way to the Big 12. So the road games are at Navy, at Tulane, at South Florida, and at ECU to close the season, right?
Mm-hmm.
They play SMU as another good team, but they get them at home near the end. They're ranked 24th right now. So basically, you see the toughest opponents they have coming here to Nippert Stadium. That's the toughest opponents. The weakest opponents that play on the road.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it sets up really nicely for them. So as long as they continue to win out, and they're ranked 5th right now, UC is.
Yeah.
That's the highest I think a group of 5 has been in a long time.
In a very long time.
So they're right at the doorstep. So I think the voters are showing them a lot of respect. And so again, I think numbers 3 and 4, Penn State and Iowa play each other this week.
They do.
And so basically, depending how lopsided the result is, one of those may drop below 5 if UC wins. So if basically what may happen is come next week, this time next week, UC may be in the top 4.
They could be, right? And this is the thing. I'm already married to the fact that the top 4 will consist of teams from the SEC, right, Big Ten, and Cincinnati.
Correct.
The question is, who will the 4 be? Because, like we've said already, as of right now, it is highly capable that both Alabama and Georgia can run the table. The only one, of course, that I'm currently afraid of not doing so is Georgia, because as everyone knows that have seen me before, I always believe that Georgia's going to Georgia.
Yeah, so they go do Georgia things. Yes.
Yeah, right. So, but they still have the ability to do so. They still have the ability to run the table. And if they both do, just like Ohio State, Iowa, or Penn State, if either one of those 3 run the table in the Big Ten, they both have resumes to say that they're good enough to be in the playoffs, even if they have 1 win. Well, or even if Ohio State has that 1 loss, which was, of course, at the time against an Oregon team that rolls up to number 3.
Right.
So they're going to need, Cincinnati is, to hands down say we're in without any argument. They're going to need one of those 5 programs to have 2 losses. They're going to. Because with 1, it still might not be strong enough because of their remaining games that those programs have against teams that are going to be in the top 20.
Right. That's the thing. So we'll see,
unless those teams drop out of the top 25 as well. So if one of those teams take a loss, see Florida, who's currently ranked 20th, if those teams make a tumble, then it weakens their resume and it gives more credence to what Cincinnati does. But if it doesn't,
right,
and it's still strong enough and those teams are ranked when they beat them, then they have the argument to say that, hey, we belong in the playoffs too.
Well, I lied when I said that UC's playing tomorrow night, Temple tomorrow. They played Friday night. That's my bad. They played Friday night on ESPN.
Okay.
So yeah, that should be interesting. But check out these. So speaking of this coming week, this weekend, man, check out the slate of. I know that Coastal Carolina plays tomorrow night, which is another good story. But they're probably going to get shitted on because it's not their fault, but their schedule.
It's scheduling, yeah.
It's scheduling. They only Power 5 out of conference is Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's Kansas football. So who gives?
Exactly, right? Which is why I didn't bring up BYU. I know there are a lot of people out there who love BYU, but I'm like, okay, who have they beaten and who will they potentially beat?
Right.
And as of right now, no one.
They play Boise State this weekend. Yeah. And they beat Utah and Arizona State, but you can argue Utah is probably a bit overrated. Arizona State is like, yeah, you know.
Exactly, right? So, you know, their resume isn't as impressive as those other teams could potentially be, especially if they do what we anticipate them doing. So that's why I didn't include BYU either. But once again, any given Saturday.
Hey, you know what? They do play at Baylor in 2 weeks. BYU does. They play at Baylor. And they play at USC at the end of the season. I know USC tends to be overrated, but they're very talented. They play at they host Virginia and they go to Washington State. But I'm gonna keep my eye out on Baylor next week. Because if they beat Baylor, then I mean their schedule isn't piss poor like it was last year. Yeah. Because they beat Arizona. Again, Arizona sucks, but they're Power 5. Arizona, Utah, Arizona State to begin the season. 3 Power 5s. They play Baylor. They play Washington State. They play Virginia, and they play USC. They got 7 Power 5s.
Yes.
Right. So it has a little bit of teeth, but it's not like Notre Dame's. Right.
No.
The point is that it's not fluff. And it starts with Boise State to me this weekend to see what they do, because Boise State, they're known to put up a surprise or two, no matter what the record is. So we'll see. BYU is ranked 10th. So they're sitting pretty too. So they, again, chaos. That's the magic word. Chaos.
Yeah, but you know what? In order for BYU, in my opinion, to make it in, not only were those teams, a lot has to happen.
Yeah.
Those 2 teams that I talked, those potential 2 teams in both the SEC and the Big Ten will both have to have 2 losses, and Cincinnati has to lose.
Right.
And they have to run the table in order for it to be a conversation for BYU.
Yo, but I mentioned the matchups earlier. Check out this, man. You got the Red River rivalry, Oklahoma and Texas. Right?
Yeah. And before you continue real quick, well, Oklahoma has not done anything impressive to me.
Right.
They have not beaten anyone handily. They haven't really covered the spread this season at all, except for the one time they played against Western Carolina.
Yeah.
Dude, you, me, and 22 other people. No, let me stop lying. Them young boys will probably come up here and beat the brakes off me if I say that lie. But still, they're supposed to beat Western Carolina by a lot. But the teams, Tulane, who they struggled against, and then there were some other teams on their schedule who they haven't handled.
West Virginia should have beaten them.
Handily.
West Virginia should have beaten them. Yes.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing. Those are teams that they haven't beaten by more than a touchdown or relatively close or closer than what it should have been. But they haven't been covering their spread at all.
Yeah.
And again, yes, they've dominated Texas. I expect them to do it again, but I don't see a win over Texas being impressive enough to get them in the top 4. I don't.
No. And then you have Arkansas, the 2 teams that tried to go up against Alabama and Georgia last week and got spanked. They play each other this week. Arkansas at Ole Miss. I knew as well. Then the 3:30 p.m. game, the oldest rivalry in the Deep South, Georgia, Auburn. That's going to be
Auburn.
busy. That's going to be busy.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned Penn State, Iowa, at 4 o'clock on Fox. I'm going to watch that game. An intriguing matchup, though, I think, is Notre Dame at Virginia Tech. Notre Dame is only favored by 1 point.
Yeah, right. And if I'm noted, well, you know what? I don't know if they pay attention to the lines, quite possibly. But I'll say this though, because you said it's going to be in Blacksburg, right?
Correct.
It's going to be in Blacksburg.
Mm-hmm.
Virginia Tech looked good beating North Carolina early in the season.
They did.
What is their record right now? Are they undefeated?
They're 3-1. They lost.
They're 3-1.
They lost to West Virginia. They fell behind big early, and they came from behind and got stopped on a 4th and goal that would have tied and won the game, possibly won the game. They lost 27-21.
Gotcha. I mean, yes, most definitely this game does not have playoff implications. Not at this point. Because if Notre Dame beats them, they're supposed to beat them. If Virginia Tech beats them, then okay, they beat Notre Dame, who lost the previous week, struggled against Florida State, and yeah. So it'll be a nice win for them to say that. It'd be great for them as they move forward next year.
Yeah.
But as of this year, it doesn't have any playoff.
Yeah, I think Virginia Tech's much better this year than they were last year. I think. Yeah. Again, they blew a game. They fell behind big against West Virginia. They on the road that was the game that was in Morgantown, West Virginia. They fell behind big early, and they almost came from behind to win it at the end. But they wish they had that game back. But because I think they got stopped twice on 4th down before that final drive where they lost the 4th and goal.
Scott, I have to ask this quick question only because this dude has a little bit of an attachment to my heart, and I still wish he would have stayed in Greensboro, but I get it. God, what's the quarterback that used to be at Virginia Tech?
Herndon, right?
Year?
Herndon Hooker.
Yeah, Herndon Hooker. Yeah. So is the current quarterback at Tech, is he looking better than Hooker is right now?
He's decent. He's not better than Hooker, in my opinion, but he's not losing games. Let's put it that way. The kid,
gotcha.
He's been there forever. Let me bring up the roster here right quick.
So it's Tech's Burmeister. Okay, so it's their defense and their special teams that has improved in order for them to 3-1 right now. Gotcha.
The defense is much better. The special teams are starting to play better beam of ball. But they're getting more out of the running game. So it's basically they're going back to the future, if that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So I think he's a junior. This kid, Braxton Burmeister, is a junior, so he'll be back next year. Let me check his stats right quick. He has, trying to get his stats up here. He's 5 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Okay.
Not bad.
Not bad at all.
Right, he's completed 61% of his passes.
Not bad, yeah.
Not bad. So he's not losing games. And even in that loss to West Virginia, he didn't play poorly. He was 19 of 31 for 223 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was sacked 6 times.
That's not bad at all. Yeah.
Right. He was sacked six times, but other than that, he has played pretty well. He's played pretty well. So he hasn't been losing any games per se. I think it's be a springboard for next year for Virginia Tech. I really think that. I think they'll be better next year. But it's not here nor there. But there's a lot of big matchups this weekend. So I'm going to keep an eye out. And with my ass part to fund the television, start at noon of Oklahoma and Texas. But it's a potential to have more chaos, right?
Yeah.
Think about it. All those games, that's potentially be more chaos. So we'll see. But that's what makes college football so great. Because like you said, let the pizza bake. Don't get high so quickly. I mean, we talking about UC right now, sure. But anything can happen. College football
can happen,
especially
it's college football. Yes,
anything can happen.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's great. I'm looking forward to it, man. And it's gonna be hype. It's gonna be hype. Speaking of